Hello everyone, we would want to talk about JavaScript today. Now in our previous lessons we looked at HTML and then we looked at CSS. So for today we are going to talk about JavaScript. Now in our HTML presentation we looked at how to use HTML to design web pages and design web pages as its structure. And then we also looked at how to use CSS to style it. So in HTML we looked at tags, we looked at elements and other things relating to HTML. Then we looked at how to use CSS to style it, looking at CSS styles, colors and other things, and then how we insert CSS files in our HTML documents. Today we are going to look at JavaScript and how to reset JavaScript, the do's and don'ts in JavaScript, variables, data types in JavaScript. Alright, so without wasting much time, let's kickstart. Alright, so introduction to JavaScript. JavaScript is the world's most popular programming language. JavaScript is the programming language of the web. Then before it was called ECMAScript. That was the official language before. In HTML, JavaScript codes are written in script tags. So when you want to add JavaScript codes to HTML file, you just write them in script tags. So this is it. So angle brackets with the scripts inside, and then you're closing angle brackets, you open another angle bracket with the / the script, and then the closing angle brackets. Alright, so we discuss this in HTML, so we know what this is when we see its structure like this. So an example, we have this, so scripts and documents. This is the JavaScript block of code. Since it is JavaScript, then we want to tell or denote that it is JavaScript, we place them in script tags. So this is the opening and this is the closing. That is how we write it when we want to add it to our HTML file. Alright, so let's see how it will look like in our file. Okay, so this is it. Alright, so you can see in the head tag we have the scripts, then we have a JavaScript function. So to make it visible, let me do this. Alright, so now you can see the opening of the script. You can see the opening of the script and then the closing of the script. This is it. So this is the closing of the script. Let me do this so you can see. Alright, so the opening script and then this is the closing script, and then inside it we have the block of JavaScript code. Okay, so inside it we have a block of JavaScript code. Then let's go back and let's look at JavaScript functions and events. A JavaScript function is a block of JavaScript code that can be executed when called for. Alright, let me give a scenario. Now in other programming languages like Python and Java, C# and others, when you define a function, it has to be called for before whatever block of code there is will be executed. So in Python we can do def so and so, or def function with your parameters and your semicolon, and within you have a block of Python code. Now that block of Python code will only be executed when the function is called. It will only be executed when the function is called. So without the function being called, there is no way the the Python block of code will be executed. There is no way that block of code will be executed. So in that same way, JavaScript function is a block of JavaScript code that can be executed, or that is executed only when it is called for. Only when it is called for. Alright, now let's look at JavaScript in the head or body. JavaScript in the head or body. Alright, so you can place any number of scripts in an HTML document. Any number of scripts in an HTML document. And then the scripts can be placed either in the head section or in the body section of your HTML page, or maybe in both. So any number of scripts in your HTML document, and then the scripts can be placed in the head section or in the body section of an HTML page. Alright, so let's look at JavaScript in the head. Let's look at JavaScript in the head. Sorry. Okay. So this is an example of the structure of an HTML file with a JavaScript code inside. So the normal structure, that is the doc type HTML, and then the HTML opening and then the closing, then your head section, then your body section. Then within the head you can see the script, meaning we are adding a JavaScript block of code. So in the script you can see this block of code in there. In the script you can see this block of code inside it nicely. Alright, now let's look at how it will appear in our file. Alright, let me do away with this. Okay. Alright, so this is it. So now I am adding a JavaScript code in my HTML document, but I am putting it in the head section. So within my head section, this is the opening tag, and then this is the closing tag for my head section. And within it you can see scripts, opening and then closing, and then within it that is the JavaScript block of code. Within it that is a JavaScript block of code. So this is when I want to add it to my HTML file in the head section. So whatever code there is here is within the head section of my HTML file, not forgetting that I should put the code in the script tag. Not forgetting that the code should be placed in the script tag. Let's look at JavaScript in body. Alright, so in the same way as demonstrated in the head, we can do same in the body. So with this example, the head section was left out because we are focusing on the body. So it is the same format, but the head section was left out. So with this, since we are focusing on the body, we added the JavaScript code in our body section. So this is the same thing, script, open, and then this is the closing, and then within it we have our JavaScript block of code. Within it we have our JavaScript block of code. Okay, so let's look at that as well. Alright, so to add it to body, let me take this from here, then alright, so this is it. All that I did was to take it from the head and then bring it to the body. It is the same, since we already know that we can place it either in our head or in our body. So it is either here or here. It is either here or here. And then since you can add any number of JavaScript files, you can place them in both. There can be one in the head, there can be another in the body. Since you can add any number of your code. Alright, so let me place it back in the head. Okay, then let's continue our demonstration. Alright, now let's look at external JavaScript. Let's look at external JavaScript. Now let's go back to what we discussed in CSS. How to link CSS files to your HTML document. How to link CSS files to your HTML document. Alright, now when we're talking about CSS, we said linking CSS to HTML. There are three ways we do that. We talked about the inline, we talked about the internal, and then we talked about the external CSS. With the inline, that is when we said we use the style attribute, and then that attribute is being written in the opening tag of whatever element we want to style. And then we talked about the internal, where styles are applied to elements within the head section of your HTML file. Within the head section of your HTML file. And then also we looked about the external CSS. We talked about the external CSS, where we create an external CSS file and then link it to our HTML document. So we create it as a separate file and then we use a link tag to link it to our HTML document. And then you realize that whatever element we call in the CSS and then style it, it what affects the element in the HTML file. Alright, now in that same way we can do for JavaScript. So instead of adding JavaScript to the head or in the body of the HTML file, we can as well create an external JavaScript file. We can as well create an external JavaScript file and then link it to the HTML document. Now you will be asking, why external JavaScript? External JavaScript are practical when the same code is used in many different web pages. Let's say you have an external JavaScript code, but you want to use it for many web pages. So you just have to link it to the several web pages you have. Since you want to use the same style, you link it. Since it's an external JavaScript, it can be used for many web pages. Now we should also note that JavaScript files have the extension .js. JavaScript files have the extension .js, like HTML, which is .html, and CSS being .css. For JavaScript, it is .js. So to use an external script, you put the name of the script file in the source attribute of a script tag. So this is an example. So in the script tag, that is it. And then you can place the external script reference in the body or head as you like. So this is the external script reference. Which can be placed in the body or head as you would like. Right, so let's look at its demonstration. So this is our external JavaScript file. So you can see my script.js. Then let's do, so we can add it either in the head or in the body. So let me add it in the head. So I do script, then I do source, so the source, and then I have to do that is the name of my GS file is my scripts dot JS. Alright, so this is it. Let's see if it looks like what we have in our presentation. Okay, so that is it. That is how it is being added. So scripts and then source. Alright, so then this is the reference for your JS file. So that is how it's being added. So it can either be here or we can put it over here. Okay, so it can either be in the head or you can bring it to the body. So with this, your HTML files know that there is an external JavaScript file which is linked to it. So whatever formats made in the JavaScript will affect your HTML document. Alright, so let me put it back in the head. Okay. Alright, let's go back to our presentation. Okay, now you'll be asking, why external JavaScript? Why external JavaScript? There are advantages of JavaScript, adding JavaScript externally. So placing scripts in external files has some advantages. So one is that it separates HTML and the JavaScript code. It separates the HTML and the JavaScript code. So you have a separate HTML document or file, and then you have what, a separate JavaScript file, which makes it more presentable and then readable. And then avoids your work from being crowded or congested. And two, it makes HTML and JavaScript easier to read and maintain. So once you have a separate file for HTML and a separate file for JavaScript, it is easier to read and maintain. Since I was saying, it doesn't make your word crowded or something. So you can read the HTML, you can read the JavaScript code. So if there is any mistake, it is easier for it to be solved. Then cached JavaScript files can speed up page loads. That is also another advantage of adding JavaScript files. External JavaScript files. That is also an advantage. Now let's look at JavaScript statements. JavaScript statements are composed of values, operators, expressions, keywords, and comments. That is for JavaScript statements. Alright, like in other programming languages, there are values, there are operators, expressions, there are keywords, there are comments. Yeah? We already know comments, they are not read by your compiler. Keywords are words that are not supposed to be used as variable names. Expressions, we already know this, operators, values, and all that. So this statement tells the browser to write hello dolly inside an HTML element with ID demo. So this is the example which, so document.get element by ID demo, and then inner.html, that is hello dolly. So it is telling the browser to write hello dolly inside an HTML element with ID demo. Okay, so most JavaScript programs contain many JavaScript statements. The statements are executed one by one in the same order as they are written. That is in sequence. So from this to that, from this to that, from this to that, except there is a selective statement over there, your if conditions and all that. If there isn't, it will execute it one after the other, from this to that, from this to that, except it sees a branching statement. JS statement should always end with a semicolon, as you can see here. So JS statement should always end with a semicolon. So that is it, as you can see over there. They should always end with a semicolon. Alright, now we looked at JavaScript syntax. How should a JavaScript code look like? So JavaScript syntax defines two types of values, which are the fixed values and variable values. So JavaScript syntax defines two types of values, which are fixed values and variable values. Fixed values are called literals. The two most important rules for fixed values are numbers and strings. So the two most important rules for fixed values are numbers and strings. We already know numbers, whether decimal or whole numbers. And then strings. An example, I am a boy, that is a string. Then numbers, we have 10.2, 11.32, 3.142, all that. Then we look at variables. Variable values are called variables. We already know that for this variable values. So they are called variables. In a programming language, variables are used to store data values. So in a programming language, you already know variables are used to store data values. So you can name a variable like Kofi and then set Kofi to 5. So in your program, it knows that Kofi is the number 5. So that is the variable Kofi being storing the number 5. So variables are used to store data values. So you can define Kofi and then set it to the string Kofi is a boy. So your program knows that what Kofi is the statement Kofi is a boy. That is when you set it to a string. You get it? So numbers are values, strings are values. We just have to declare a variable and then assign it to it using the assignment operators. So as you can see over here, it says an equal sign. So an equal sign is used to assign values to variables. Your value can be a number or a string. So an equal sign is used to assign values to variables. Then in this example, you can see x is defined as a variable, then x is assigned the value 6, as I was saying. So let x, then x equal to 6. Now you will get to understand why this let over here is there. That is a keyword in JavaScript. The let is a keyword in JavaScript. So when you use this let keyword, once you are saying let x should be 6, it means you cannot reassign x to any other value. Once you use the let, you cannot reassign x to any other value or redeclare x to any other value. So x will be 6 and 6 alone. That is when you use the let keyword. So over here you can see the x is your variable, and then the 6 over here is a value, is the value. So instead of using a number, you could have said x is equal to Kofi is a boy. So let me, you will get much more understanding when I write it. So let me use this. So x, instead of assigning x to 6, x is 6, and then let me see our semicolon. So I can assign x to 6 like this, or I can assign it to a string. Let's say I am a boy. So either I assign it to a number, or I assign it to a string like that. Alright, it is not in my script code, forgive me for that. I'm just demonstrating it to you. Sorry, let's go back to, okay. Alright, so that is that. Now let's look at JavaScript data types. Alright, so there is no way we can look at JavaScript without knowing the data types, which is a very, very important aspect of the programming language. Alright, so JavaScript data types. There are 8 data types in JavaScript. So you can see them listed all over here. We have string, we have number, we have big int, we have boolean, we have undefined, we have null, symbol, we have object. Alright, then also we have the object data type. The object data type. So the object data type can contain an object, an array, a date, and all that. That is for the object data type. Now you can see there is big int over here. There is big int over here. Just like the int in other programming languages, which is used for declaring integer values. A big int is also used to declare integer values, but huge numbers, which a variable can't store. A very huge number. A very, very huge number. That is why it is called the big int. So it is used to declare such numbers. That is why it is called the big int. So there are 8 data types in JavaScript. So the string, the number, the big int, the boolean, the undefined, the null, the symbol, the object. And then you also get to know that there is the object data type. So the object data type can contain an object, an array, and then a date. So objects, array, and a date. And a date. Then let's look at the last aspects I want to talk about. JavaScript functions. So a JavaScript function is a block of code designed to perform a particular task. So a block of code designed to perform a particular task. So as I have said already, unless that function is called, that block of code can't be executed. Unless it is called, that block of code cannot be executed. Alright, so it is saying that the JavaScript function is executed when something invokes it, so calls it. So the block of code is only executed when it is being called, as I said earlier on. So we have an example over here. Now you can see these 2 forward slashes and then a statement. Now these are comments in JavaScript. These are comments in JavaScript. They are not read by the compiler. They are excluded when the program is being executed. So when you run this, you wouldn't see it in your browser. When you run this, you will not see it in your browser. So this is it, function, and then my function p1, p2. These are parameters. these are parameters. When you input an actual value, it becomes an argument. So these are parameters. They are like placeholders for your argument, p1, p2, and then open, and then you have return p1 times p2. So this function, when called, will ask you for p1, will ask you for p2, and then it will perform this operation, p1 times p2. So the p1 and p2, as I said over here, are parameters. So the values you place in them will be the argument. So if I call the function my function, then within the parameters I write 3, 2, then the 3 and 2 becomes the argument, which will be used to perform this operation. So 3 times 2, which should give me 6. 3 times 2, which should give me 6. Alright, so anytime you see this in a JavaScript code, you should know that it is a comment. They are not run like other comments in HTML, in CSS, in Python, and other programming languages. They are not read by, so they are not read when the program is being executed. They are not read when the program is being executed. Alright, so I would like to end over here. So we have looked at so many things since beginning. So JavaScript, we looked at the introduction, JavaScript being the world's most popular programming language. Then we looked at the functions, JavaScript functions, a block of JavaScript code that can be executed when called for. Then how to add JavaScript either in the head or in the body. Then we looked at external JavaScript, creating an external JavaScript file and then adding it to your HTML file. Then we also looked at external JavaScript advantages. Why create an external JavaScript? Then we looked at statements in JavaScript. Then also we looked at JavaScript syntax. We looked at JavaScript data types and JavaScript functions. Alright, so I would like to end over here. Thank you very much.